Today we're going to talk about culture and 3 steps you can take to turn your culture into a strategic differentiator. According to McKinsey, companies with great culture make twice as much profit as companies with poor culture. And this is interesting for me because I've conducted probably 30, 40 culture offsites on behalf of big companies, small companies, every kind of company. And it's been amazing to me how often culture is misunderstood and misused and misapplied. So today we're going to talk about 3 steps to really unlocking culture as a strategic weapon inside your business and how we can make twice as much profit. The 3 steps are these. First of all, culture is not about making employees happy or engaged. Number 2, culture is as vital as strategy. And number 3, the default culture you get is garbage. First of all, culture is not about making employees happy or engaged. And this is something I see all the time, and it drives me absolutely insane. And maybe I'm hanging out on the wrong places in line and talking to the wrong people. But there's a lot of people out there talking about increasing employee happiness and engagement by tackling employee happiness and engagement directly. They're talking about culture being making everyone happy, making everyone engaged, making everyone feel welcome and included, and increasing well-being and belonging. And these are all worthy goals, by the way, not disrespecting any of these things. But the idea that engagement and happiness, our culture, is an awful, terrible, hideous idea. And this is why. This is the wet streets cause rain scenario. Every time the streets are wet, it rains. It's amazing. This is mixing cause and effect. Employee happiness and engagement are outputs of great culture, not the inputs. And this is because happy employees do not create great culture. Great culture creates happy employees. And this is a really important distinction, because if you are trying to create great culture by making your employees happy, what you're doing is you're giving them free food, company trips, nap pods, ping pong, merchandise with your logo on it, all these fun things. And maybe you should do those things, maybe you shouldn't. But the idea that those are going to create a culture is a complete cart before the horse. If you create great culture, then you'll get happy employees. So create clarity, consistency, and alignment, and then your employees will be happier. It's also important to remember that you can't make your employees happy. First of all, you can't make anybody else happy, but you can't make your employees happy by focusing on happiness any more than you can make yourself happy by focusing on your own happiness. It's impossible. We don't become happier as humans by focusing on happiness. We focus on other things and then become happy. And this is well known in the literature, and humans have known this all through history. It's not just in the modern literature and the research, it's in pretty much every great work that humans have ever written. You don't become happy by focusing on happiness. You get happy by focusing on other people, by causes, by life around you, and then happiness comes secondarily. So the idea that we can improve employee happiness by focusing on their happiness is an insane idea to me. If that's what culture isn't, what is culture? Culture is as vital as strategy. If you think about where business comes from and why businesses are set up, you have this vision and mission. You have a purpose for being in business. You set up the business in order to achieve something. The executive team then have a strategy. That strategy is, what are we going to do to achieve that mission? But also we need a culture, how the people should do it. And this is often overlooked as a lever. It's looked at as a nice to have. Like, well, wouldn't it be nice if we had a nice culture? Wouldn't it be nice if we were all happy? Wouldn't it be nice if we were all one way, all had one way of doing things? And again, that's just a terrible way of thinking about culture. If strategy is the way the company should act, culture is the way that people should act. And they need to go hand in hand. You have to have both. You can't have one without the other. And if you just leave culture, you're going to have a default culture. The same way as if you leave strategy, you're going to have a default strategy, which is people are just going to do some things. The company is just going to do some things. This becomes increasingly important in a knowledge economy where it's people that make the difference. Humans make trade-offs, and that's what culture does. So a bad culture, the way I've seen culture created at these offsites that I've run, is you get the team together and you have them list down individually all the things that you think a culture should be. And they come up with all these really nice words like, well, should be hardworking and honest and kind and trustworthy and customer-centric and commercial. They have all these great words. And then you get them together, you put them up on a board, and you narrow it down, you have a team conversation of some kind, and then someone wordsmiths it, and you end up with this culture that is just some really nice things to do. And it's based on the needs of the people in the room, and it's just a list of things that people should probably be doing anyway. Like, we are kind. Well, shouldn't you be kind anyway? We are hardworking. Did you need to be told that? Another way of thinking about culture is the idea of trade-offs. Honest over kind. Safe over innovative. Help your employees understand when they've got a choice between doing two good things, which one takes preference. Focusing on culture at a company level enables employees to ask the question, how am I doing here? If there's no clear culture at a company level, they may start asking wider questions like, how am I doing as a human? Which is a good way of triggering existential crises in everyone around you. And I see a lot of these companies that don't have clear cultures having very insecure employees. And the employees become worried because they don't know if they're succeeding. So everybody's terrified, and then you get all of these other behaviors that stem from that. Protectionism, lack of teamwork, a lot of other bad things stem from not having a clear culture. So we need to bake culture into everything. The way that we show the culture is by baking it into hiring, firing, retaining, training, meetings, reviews, coaching, promotions, town halls, benefits, offices, branding, surveys, everything. And if you do that, the right people will opt in, the right people will stay, the right people will thrive. And when I say the right people, it's the people that you've pegged to the culture, which is pegged to the mission. The people that are going to help you achieve the mission are the right people. There is no judgment here around value of different humans. Every human is equally valuable. What you need is humans that will help you achieve the mission. Which leads me to the last point, that default culture is garbage. And we need to think for a minute about where culture comes from. And I think about it this way, in terms of culture being a nested hierarchy of rules that come from the human systems we're involved in. So first of all, we all live in the universe. We have nature, and nature has rules. You have to eat regularly. You can't defy the rules of gravity. Next, we have civilization. If you murder or abuse children, you're exiled. You're not just imprisoned, you're shunned. People think of you as less than human. They want you gone. Next comes nation. You need to contribute to society. If you don't do that, you're imprisoned. Next comes company. Now, companies do have expectations. Sometimes we just don't share them, sometimes we do. But companies come up with expectations like you need to be punctual, you need to be customer focused, whatever those are, and if you don't live up to those expectations, you're fired. Nations have expectations too, so sometimes you default into those, and that's what we're going to talk about next, which is if you don't dictate it at a company level, you're going to dictate this culture at a national level. For example, Germany is much more punctual than Puerto Rico, where I live. That is a value that is incorporated at a national level and will be assumed in German companies. And if you don't describe it specifically in the company, you're going to get the national. The hard part with this is, at a national level, you get a whole mismatch of all the different values that are sloshing around in society. So you can have people-focused people and task-focused people. You can have detail-oriented and big picture. You can have risk-averse or risk-taking. You get all of them. And if you don't decide specifically, you will get a mix. And sometimes it's good to get a mix. You want to have some areas of culture where you're not going to define anything because like a bit of both. Fantastic. Don't define it. 3 outcomes of this and this model. First of all, humans are hardwired to seek out acceptance. Employees just want to know how to be successful. Like, how should I fit in around here, and am I doing well? Everybody wants to know, can I take my kids on holiday this year? Am I going to be able to make my mortgage payments in 2 years? People want to know if they belong. The more you can do that as a leader, so they can answer the important questions about their own personal lives, they will become happier and you'll get more of their engagement. Number 2, the deeper this mismatch, the deeper the mistrust. Most public discourse happens at mismatches between civilization and individual, for example. Or I'm going to bring up a couple of hot topic examples. Don't get stuck in the details. If you think about abortion, on one side we're talking about an individual decision. On the other side we're saying no, it's a civilization decision. And so we're not just arguing about the answer. This is really, really fundamental. Some people are saying this is not that important. Other people are saying, no, this is incredibly important. And that's the argument. For gun control, for example, the same people would say it the other way around. One group are saying, no, this is an individual decision. The other people are saying, no, this is a civilization issue and has civilization consequences, or at least national. And this is important in a company because you feel threatened by people who are further down the chain, and you feel more affinity with people who you're going to mismatch with somebody on everything. But if you're mismatching an individual, fine. Right? If I'm mismatching on civilization, I probably want to kill you. If I'm mismatching on nation, then I have serious reservations about you as a human, and I think you probably should be locked up. And we don't talk about that enough in society. We just think, well, we have these differences. We have these cultural differences. What kind of cultural differences? How fundamental are those cultural differences? And that's an important thing to understand in your company. There are certain things that we can define inside a company that help the employees feel belonging around people that are different to them in important areas and the same to them in other important areas, which enables them to achieve the mission. And that's your job as a company to understand, and your job as a leadership to understand which things do we need consistency on, and which things do we need difference on. Which brings us to the last point. It's confusing to read what culture to adapt to when there is so much contradiction and inconsistency even within one organization. As an employee in an organization, I'm trying to understand if I don't do something in a certain way, like if I'm not punctual, if I'm not detail-oriented, if I'm not a self-starter, whose rules am I breaking? Is it mine? Is it my boss's? Is it the team, which is my boss? Is it the whole company? Is it the nation? Is it civilization? So I'm trying to work out which rules I trade off, because I can't do everything all the time. Right? I can't be completely honest and completely kind. Sometimes people just need to be told things that will hurt their feelings. Right? So on one side. On the other side is maybe I should never tell them and I should always be friendly. We see this across whole cultures. We see this across businesses, and we see this in individuals. So I'm always making these trade-offs between good things. And being able to understand where these come from helps employees. And so the clearer you can be at a company level and the clearer you can be at a team level, the more peace and direction you'll give your employees and the more discretionary effort you will get from them. Culture doesn't have to be homogenous to be successful. It just has to be clear. Take the best from your location, clarify big trade-offs at an organization level, and encourage teams to build on that. You may have different teams inside the organization having slightly different cultures. Your compliance team and your sales team are going to have different cultures. But there's going to be some base that they're going to get from the company and some base they're going to get from civilization in general. So in summary, culture is insanely powerful and much more complicated than we give it credit for. Don't just focus on happiness, focus on clarity and you'll find happiness. You should be talking about culture as often as you talk about strategy. If you don't define strategy, your location will define it for you, and that's going to leave a mess in some fairly important pieces in order for you to achieve your vision. That's it from me. I've been James Greaves, and this has been Get Shift Done.